This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. What I'm looking at today is the first 3 episodes of TNT's Snowpiercer. And seeing that the movie had a definitive end to it, the only direction they could go was prequel. But the thing is, this is kind of not the most optimistic bit of material to be making a prequel of. It's very dour, and as I said, you already know the ending. This train is going to crash, and humanity is seemingly going to be on the road to extinction. The series revolves around similar territory as the movie, which is to say you have a huge train, Snowpiercer, in which holds humanity, from the poorest of the poor to the richest of the rich. And it's very stratified in the sense that you have the back of the train, which are the dregs of society, so to speak, and the further you go up the train, the more civilized, the more opulent it becomes. Snowpiercer is obviously, I should say the movie, because as I said, I haven't read the graphic novel, is very obviously a metaphor for capitalism and classism. And it's really I should say the movie is really effective in embracing those themes. The series, not so much. The reason being, at least in my eyes, the series is getting bogged down in certain procedural elements. Now keep in mind, this series has gone through a lot of trouble to make it to the screen. The first showrunner was thrown off for various reasons. He was replaced. And what we have now is, while superficially loyal to the movie, it has a few oddities to it that are a little confusing. For instance, there's a scene in the series where you see people dressed in suits that protect them against the cold. Now, this got me thinking. There's so much aboard this train. Is there not a manufactory of some sorts? Because someone made those suits, and those suits are able to protect them from the cold, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of the train a little bit. I mean, if you have those suits, and you have enough of them, theoretically you can leave the train. And if you could leave the train, you could build shelter elsewhere. Let's say underground, for instance. And you could grow food. It's not a huge scene, but even to see it there defeats the purpose of the movie just a little bit. They're not necessarily trapped in that train, especially if they have suits that will enable them to survive the cold. That is something that was not present at all in the movie, and with good reason. It kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. And I mentioned earlier that it's become a bit of a procedural, in the sense that the first 3 episodes revolve around a murder in the upper parts of the train. And they go into the dregs towards the back to get someone who used to be a detective to solve the crime. That's interesting. And it adapts sort of procedural, as in police procedural elements. That's not bad. But the thing is, Snowpiercer, the movie, was always about class. And again, a metaphor for capitalism, and how it destroys people, how it traps people, and how it forces the existence of an underclass. In fact, it needs an underclass and won't function without it, because someone has to do the work the richer, more powerful people don't particularly want to do. And so it's distracting from that aim somewhat. And Ed Harris played I want to say his name is Whitfield or Whitman. In any case, the person who created the train. Snowpiercer, the series, is working on the assumption that that name has, as far as I can tell, no living members to represent it. And different people are that person, and that person is always unseen. That's an interesting concept, but it does conflict somewhat with the movie. It's an oddly dreary series to watch. Now keep in mind something. The movie wasn't exactly bursting with optimism, but at the same time, the movie had a certain theatricality to it, a certain over-the-topness that leavened the more dire look of everything around it. It had a certain drama to it that this series lacks. Visually, it looks kind of dull. Even when you're into more spectacular, more ostentatious parts of the train, which should look spectacular, don't necessarily. And that's a problem, and it makes the series feel like a bit of a slog to sit through. And the thing is, while the movie did contain some of those elements, just the visualization of them was just so much more interesting and exaggerated. That's a very good word to describe it. So much more exaggerated that it had elements of the fantastical to it. This, not so much. It's not bad. I will probably continue watching it beyond the 3 episodes I've already seen. But if this lasts beyond season 1, I would genuinely be surprised. It's not terrible, it's just not very engaging. It requires a certain distance to fully appreciate, I think, and that's going to cause it problems. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. As usual, let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you like Snowpiercer? Or maybe you don't. Let me hear why. Peace.